This podcast is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play. Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the podcast where we explore the amazing universe of the Elder Scrolls. Adventurers, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots, and I'm here with my good buddy, Lotus of Doom. Lotus, it's High Isle time.
It is high. Well, it's sort of High Isle time for me.
For PC
it's
players.
High Isle time for everybody else, though. And
yeah,
soon enough to be me. I'm probably going to just get it to goof around with it on PC as well. I don't have it yet on PC, but I'm not going to lie. I probably get it on PC. I've got the other ones on PC. So
Yeah, you will.
I'm very excited for it. It sounds like a lot of the stuff is very interesting. I'm most excited. Yeah.
Well, today's episode, we're talking about Mephala, but real quick, we have to mention that High Isle is out. We've been waiting for this for a while. T-Rex in chat says, I already finished High Isle.
I finished it.
Holy crap.
That's amazing. Somebody enjoyed High Isle.
Wow. So I haven't done all the quests and stuff because I've been too busy playing the card game. So
that's all I hear. Everybody
didn't I predict this? I predicted this.
I was going to say, it's almost like you warned about this on Tales.
I told people that like everyone's talking trash about the card game, but 6 months from now, everyone's going to be like, that's all I've been doing is playing the card game. I told you guys.
And like every stream is basically like anywhere in the directory, people are just sitting there like, why do I keep playing this? And they're just like, everybody just keeps playing it. I was like, oh boy, it's happening.
These card games are great. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. You got to get through a little tutorial. Billy Boyd, the guy who did Pippin in The Lord of the Rings, or it was Pippin in The Lord of the Rings, is one of the voice actors for like the main character who walks you through stuff. He takes you through your first game. It's very nice to have a game with Pippin. He's a charming fellow. Anyway, awesome stuff. I've been loving it. I need to collect all the other packs of cards and get that stuff unlocked, which you can do by like doing some of the stuff around the island, like some of the just the stuff. There's stuff on the island, the events and the bosses and all that crap. Each of those things can potentially drop another pack of cards. All that stuff. It's great. You guys should go check it out. But today, we're talking about Mephala because we're continuing through our Daedric princes. We're all the way up to the M's. Mehrunes Dagon was last week. This week
we're up to ME.
Mephala, the androgynous, although she tends to be female most of the time, but is known as being androgynous, which is interesting because they get to choose their form, and some of them sometimes do choose male or female. But I think that's just more of like her in general she or it is more even as a female shaped character is still androgynous. Yeah,
we've mentioned, it's one of the things that the Daedric princes kind of utilize physical appearance based on whatever, and like they kind of just morph into whatever they need to for the time being. Like
yeah. But she's I don't know. I think she's pretty awesome. So here, we're going to do the rundown. We're going to be pulling a lot from the UESP and of course talking more about that stuff. But this is a great source for just getting the bits and nuggets to kind of get you, further down the rabbit hole. So here we go. Mephala is a Daedric prince whose sphere is obscured to mortals, which is one of the pieces of lore about that, although there's multiple pieces of lore about that. She is associated with murder, lies, deception, sex, and secrets, and is always weaving a web of intrigue and terror. So, awesome. Mephala is also known as the web spinner, plot weaver, androgyne, the spinner, the spider, the teacher of the secret arts, and queen of the 8 shadows of murder. How do you get that title? I want that title.
A lot of murder.
Lots of murder. Lots of shadows of murder.
Lots of murder from the shadows.
What's a shadow of murder?
Do it, honestly.
Well, that sounds like a Kirk Bridean.
Very Kirkbridean.
Yeah, kind of thing. The silver spider, the spider god, the dark one, the whispering lady, the lady of whispers, and the queen of oblivion.
I feel like two of those might have not been quite as creative as they wanted to think they were.
Yeah, like they're kind of transposed. Whispering lady, lady of whispers.
You just moved the descriptor to the beginning and after.
Right. She is also referred to as the princess of secrets and she who weaves the sordid web of human affairs. Long, thin silver hair is a trait associated with Mephala's champions. So if ever you see a silver-haired... Wait a minute. Geralt of Rivia? Uh-oh. But I think Mephala's pretty freaking awesome. They are very spider-like in appearance. Oftentimes you see like the spider legs coming up behind her. The spider Daedra are very much associated with her realm. What do you think, Lotus? Do you have any thoughts on Mephala?
I don't know. Mephala is definitely one of the Daedric princes that in the games I tend to not really. She's there. She's related to many of the stories, but this is one of the Daedric princes that I feel always interacts a lot. Well, I guess this is kind of why if you're a web spinner and you're setting stuff up, it always comes across that a lot of Mephala's dealings, you don't even realize are Mephala's dealings until after you're already, I don't know, from
tied up in them,
caught in the web.
Caught in the web. Yeah. She manages these things from the shadows.
Right. Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So, there's some really cool stuff in here, and I'm going to quote a little bit more directly from the UESP than we've been doing lately because I like the way this is talked about in here. The second paragraph says, Mephala interferes with the affairs of mortals for her own amusement and does nothing without purpose. Although I feel like all the Daedric princes do things with purpose. Like that can be true for everybody.
But my assumption with the way that's worded, because this also could just be the way that it was added to the Wikipedia, because I saw that as well. Mm-hmm. I almost wonder if the idea is, since it seems like a lot of Mephala's dealings, and you can run to it in game quite a bit. There's a decent amount of dealings with her in ESO as well, but you'll encounter situations with Mephala quite frequently. And it sort of does seem like she's screwing with people for the sake of screwing with people. Mm-hmm. So like, I think the emphasis is more, even though it seems like it's just for amusement, like, oh, I'm just doing this to
there's
be a
more
douche
to
or
it.
needle at you.
Yeah.
There's something you don't know about, which has a deeper meaning.
It's not just mean-spirited.
Exactly. Yes, there is a reason to it, even when it seems almost like it's just for sadistic pleasure or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It goes on. It says, Mephala thinks of the affairs of mortals as a weave, but pull but one thread and the whole thing unravels. To her, the web of the Erebus is an interconnected system of action and consequence, and she spins new threads to influence outcomes. In an essay analyzing the Daedric prince, Divith I never know how to pronounce these words.
Divith Fear. That's how I think he pronounces his own name in game. Mm-hmm.
He posits that Mephala likely doesn't see mortals as mere playthings, unlike some of her fellow princes. And there's some really cool stuff about Mephala in that she may be more powerful, even though she strikes from the shadows. She kind of toys with people. She pulls things, pulling these threads of the web, that kind of thing. There may be more to her than we understand, like so many of these Daedric princes.
Right.
So this passage says, the web spinner deals in secrets and hidden lore. She and her worshippers value secrets and mysteries above all. And this gets really interesting here. Those who stumble upon one of Mephala's shrines or a place where an artifact of hers is hidden may find Mephala whispering forbidden secrets in their ears, which is interesting. Forbidden secrets, forbidden information. Now let's see where this is going. Hermaeus Mora, the demon of knowledge, is sometimes referred to as Mephala's sibling.
Right. That's another interesting thing because they both deal in, well, there are other parts, but they have one overlapping sphere, so to speak.
Yeah. Like she deals in secrets, information that is not readily known and available.
Whereas Mora is not so much, doesn't need to be a secret, but secrets are encompassed in, conglomerating forbidden knowledge.
Right. So yeah, there's kind of some overlap there. There's also a piece of her history when we talk about some of the ideas behind, where she came from, how she actually plays into the whole system of these godlike beings, that she may be one of the most powerful and of the originals that basically rebelled against the creation of everything.
Yeah, Daedra.
Yeah. So she may have a lot more going on with the total grand scheme of the way time plays out, and like the analogy to the web, spinning the web, unraveling the web, all of these things. So she may have a lot to do underneath the surface with a lot that we don't really have a full sense of. And we're going to go into this, I think, and maybe we should just go into it now, because that may have a lot to do with her connections with, or potential connections with, the groups in Tamriel who like to assassinate people. Right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So, okay. So if she's meddling in the affairs of people, she's into lies and secrets, but she's also into murder. It totally makes sense that she might be associated with groups that like to murder and do it secretly, like the Morag Tong, who we know is absolutely associated with her. This one is built on the premise and the teachings. She's one of the good Daedra of the Dunmer. So she basically taught them a lot about, and it's part of why these, like, the secrets and the murder and stuff is in their culture, is because it comes from her.
Right. And it's interesting because actually T-Rex brought it up in chat as well, that Mephala is considered one of the good Daedra in the tribunal faith. I mean, we'll get into the fact that, she's in anticipation, but it's just interesting that when you're dealing with murder, lies, deception, sex, secrets, intrigue, terror, that's the good category.
Right. I mean, sex is fun, but the rest of those tend to be pretty negative.
There's a couple parts of that are kind of fun.
Right.
There's others that maybe don't fall into that category.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the justification is you have the Chimer who are breaking away from the Altmer, and it was Daedra like her that helped enable them to do so. It was through, murder and terror and secrets and things that helped them differentiate their society. So they saw this as beneficial to them when she was basically, part of this group of Daedra who were kind of ushering them into creating their own society and moving away from the other elves, obviously to their own ends. But they would look back on that and say, well, if it wasn't for her, then we wouldn't have been able to do this. We wouldn't be our own people, when we'd still be under rule of this other group that we didn't want to belong with anymore.
Right.
And so therefore you have the Morag Tong, which we have. And if you're curious about any of these other things, there's the Morag Tong. We've done episodes about them. We've done episodes about the Chimer. These are all in past episodes. You can go look them back up if you want. But now you were talking about so we can go two directions. We can talk about her as an anticipation, which I think we should hold off on doing right now, maybe a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, maybe jump into that a little after.
Yeah. But I want to point out that we know she's associated with the Morag Tong. The Morag Tong only lasted so long and were eventually disbanded.
Yeah.
Maybe, most likely.
For the most part, they were. They weren't so prominent when they got a little overzealous.
Right.
When they decided to graffiti up the walls with gore.
Right. It got a little too out in everybody's faces, and the rest of the Empire didn't like it. Yeah. So then you have the creation of the Dark Brotherhood. So the Dark Brotherhood worships the Night Mother. And there is some speculation that Mephala might actually be the Night Mother, because we don't know who the Night Mother is.
Yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity around who the Night Mother actually is.
And the fact that Mephala is all about secrets and not outing herself or itself, then it totally would make sense that the Night Mother could be the patron of the Dark Brotherhood, because the Dark Brotherhood is all about the same stuff that Mephala is all about. So that absolutely makes sense. Mephala was also the patron of the Silken Ring, the group of assassins comprised of deserters of the Dark Brotherhood, the Morag Tong, and the Shadow Scales. Shadow Scales are kind of a subgroup of those others.
Yep.
But so we know that she's associated with the Silken Ring. All of these things totally make sense and would absolutely fit under her sphere of influence and the kinds of things that she would want to be alive and active in the world. spreading, lies, secrecy, assassinations, murder, terror.
Generally messing stuff up.
So
Yeah.
I can't imagine that even if she wasn't the Night Mother, that she didn't have some influence over the Dark Brotherhood, which has been documented. There are members of the Dark Brotherhood who clearly worship Mephala. So I think all of this stuff kind of fits together. That's my gut on it.
And it makes sense to me as well, especially because you kind of have to follow some threads to get there, which even that aligns with the idea that it's not a direct causal link, but it's like, oh, it's kind of obscured through this other set of like, oh, well, I need a little bit of misdirection because I don't want you to have a clear through line to getting back to me being at hand. I want you to be confused about who's where and what's going on type of thing while getting stuff done.
Right. So it would make sense that she would still be involved, but yet secretly be involved because that's also part of who she is.
Right.
So totally makes sense. Now let's deal with the whole Dunmer anticipations thing, right? She was one of the original good Dunmer, still seen as the good, Daedric princess to the Dunmer. She was the anticipation of Vivek. And what's interesting about that, and we haven't done an episode on Vivek and the rest of the tribunal yet. We need to. Maybe we'll do that after we get through the rest of
maybe after we finish
Daedra.
this set of Daedric princes, we should actually do the tribunal for people.
Yeah, but Vivek is interesting because when we see him in the games, he seems to be positively thought of by his people. He's kind of watching over them and protecting him, those kinds of things. But we also know that he's a freaking liar.
Right. And he does some interesting things to get results at times.
Yes.
And which again kind of aligns with Mephala, where, there's always a purpose. So that could also align with a lot of Vivek's interesting escapades to get things done. And then, lie about how he got there.
Right. And there's a lot of other similarities between Vivek and Mephala. I'm not saying they're the same thing, but
certainly not.
He obviously is somebody who rose to power and is different from Mephala, but there are similarities in who they are and the kind of role that they play. And
it's kind of the traits they exhibit most.
Right. And when you look at them, it's not obvious, but when you think about it a little bit, androgyny is very much a thing tied to similar to Vivek.
Vivek is the ultimate of just all everything, all encompassing duality, the
combination, male, female, everything.
Both of the things, all the things.
Yep. And then also, secrecy, even murder, intrigue, all of these things.
I was going to say,
connect to Vivek.
Depending upon which of the stories you believe, murder of basically your best friend for this pursuit of power. So, it's all how you look at, do you believe his story or not? Because again, if that's a lie and you don't follow the tribunal and you kind of believe the Ashlander tribes, well, then he killed Nerevar, and that's some sketchy stuff.
Yeah. And the few times that you do get to interact with him, even in ESO, he seems to have noble things, but there's a little bit of but I'm not going to share my power and I'm not going to tell you how I got it.
Right. Yeah. This is totally mine and back off.
Right. There's
don't
definitely
make me
that
drop
too.
this Bardau. I'll do it.
Right. He's very much a politician in that way. Yeah. So, okay. So there's the connections there. And I think that part's interesting. Anything I've missed so far that you want to chime in with?
No, not specifically with this, although I am interested, since we're kind of into the religion and culture section. The other thing that I really, I guess, referring to stories, moving on from the anticipation.
Yeah,
one of the stories, and generally love it or hate it, but most entertaining to many, the whole situation with Trinimac and the potential side story that actually involves a lot more Mephala than many, want to accept, I guess.
Yeah. So, do you want to note this?
Sure. So just as a note, we've done the story of Trinimac becoming Malakath.
Right.
And there's lots of different ways to interpret that story, but one of them, and the one involving Mephala, I actually don't remember if we mentioned it in the Malakath one. I assume we might have, but
I think we skipped over this.
Did we skip over that on purpose? I can't remember if we made it.
So, we talked about the most common belief among, individual groups, but this one with Mephala's adding into this one, we didn't discuss.
Right. So there is another version of this story, which I'll just use the direct part from the UESP, and then we can discuss it from there. Some versions of the tale of Trinimac's fall claim that Mephala was an integral part of his transformation. In one such iteration of the story, Trinimac battles Boethia for turning the Velothi against the Adric ancestors and is stabbed in the back by Mephala just as he is about to deal a major blow.
Which, is exactly how you would expect Mephala to kill somebody.
100%.
In the back, hidden away, in secret, with a dagger. Yes.
Exactly. Like totally distracted, and here's my chance to strike. Trinimac was too wounded to fight further, allowing Boethia to disfigure him and cast the disgraced god into oblivion. Trinimac tore the shame of failure from his chest, which created Moloch, and that's how
Malak.
That's
right. That's
the other name. The non-feces version of this story.
Yes.
But the connection here ties into the fact that also in some of the lore, it's believed that Boethia and Mephala are potential lovers. So there's a connection there where they're already in certain stories allies with each other. Mm-hmm. So it further kind of puts forth maybe this was a dual effort to overtake and embarrass Trinimac, disgrace Trinimac, whatever the case. But so there's potential that Mephala helped in this story and created Malakath or Moloch.
Yeah, and that makes sense. They're both two of the good Daedra.
Yeah.
According to the Dunmer. So the fact that they would be in league in multiple things more than just one thing is possible. Oftentimes the Daedra will team up when it's beneficial to each of them, and then that is very short-lived. But some of them are a little bit more tied more closely than others. So that could very much be a thing. Going back to the Dark Brotherhood and the Night Mother, remember the episode we talked about with the whole what's going on with the Void? Remember that? It was about a year ago almost when we did the weird and wacky stuff. We were talking about the ending of the storyline from the Skyrim stuff in ESO. And in that storyline, spoilers, by the way, and this isn't too much of a spoiler, but a piece of the Void makes its way to Tamriel, which is super weird that the Void is a thing and can manifest itself like on Tamriel, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think of the lack of something as being something in and of itself.
Right, yeah. But if you take the whole perspective, and there's a lot of debate about how you can see the nature of the godly beings and how they came across. One version is that there are Padmaic forces, which is like the dark chaos side of the whole spectrum, right?
Yep.
And if that's the case, and the Daedra are more Padmaic, they come from that dark chaotic something.
Yep.
Then, and if Mephala is the first of them, or at least one of the first of them, and is very powerful, then maybe there's a connection there, because we know that the Dark Brotherhood worship not only the Night Mother, but the Dread Father, and they call on the Void, the Sithis specifically, and they call on Sithis and the Void, which are supposedly powers that are more primordial and darker and more powerful than even the Daedric princes. Then maybe Mephala has a very strong tie to that in ways that other Daedric princes don't.
Yeah, it's an interesting potential side thing that could be. That could be, because a lot of times you don't often see representations of Sithis or the Dreadlord, but there is a statue in Elder Scrolls Online for what that's worth. Very similar spindly type of build. It's a more masculine version, but again, we were talking about the fact that so it's interesting if there's, I don't know, maybe there's more to that than just a tangential connection. Maybe there's like a deeper, like, oh, okay, again, because it's unlikely Mephala would want you to know that it would be the same if that was the case. Like,
but all of these references to these
down would totally work to Mephala's advantage.
Yeah, and think about it: secrecy, murder, all of these things lead to chaos. They lead to what she does is chaotic, but it's chaotic constructive, not chaotic like Sheogorath chaotic, right? It's chaos with the goal of sowing chaos, taking things back to a more primordial state.
Yep.
Sithis, all of these things feel very connected, almost like there's stair steps down from a primordial thing to a more concrete thing.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe there's something there. It's just worth throwing that out. But I think that there are hints, at least in the lore, that may very well be a thing. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about all this. I think that even if they're not exactly set up that way, because the actual structure of the Orbis and everything isn't this same way, it still doesn't mean that they're not all connected, which is right. Could be a thing. But tell you what, we've got more to go into. We got Lotus's favorite stuff here, the artifacts, coming up next. And before we do that, we got to thank our patrons. So we'll be right back.
The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
All right, so we've got some new patrons this week that we need to shout out. I think I shouted out Neil last week, but it was on the 2nd, which was exactly the day that we do the show, and sometimes those notifications come in time and not. But if I did, you get two shout outs. So welcome Neil to the Patreon, Gwingard, Nick, just individual one named people, Megan S, who broke the pattern, and Acalagus. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you to our new patrons. Welcome to the Patreon. I'm so glad you guys are here. Lotus, guess how many patrons we're at?
Well, at this point, it seems like we're pushing back toward our triple digits, because my Lord, it's so many people sign up for this thing. So.
I know, right? 99. We have 99.
There you go. I'm one off from there.
One away from 100. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you supporting the show. And big thanks to Gami Boy, Kira C, Noodle Al Dente, and Riverwood Chicken, because you guys are our tier 5 Daedric princes. And man, we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much to everybody. And if we're helping you get through your workday, if this is one of your favorite shows and you want to make sure that we can keep doing this, any of that stuff, and you'd like to give back, or you want to just check out and see what the rewards are, go to patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. You get ad-free episodes, you get t-shirts. There's all sorts of fun stuff. The t-shirts look freaking awesome, by the way. I'm just gonna pat myself on the back again about that. I think they look really good. I'm jealous that I don't have them.
Design them and can confirm.
But go check that stuff out. And then we also have a review. This is on Apple Podcasts, and by the way, any ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify are extremely helpful. Please leave us 5-star reviews. They help us stay up high in the rankings. And then also, if you leave some words on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it out in the future. This one says, Hermaeus Mora would listen to this show. I love that. This is from Hasselhoff, who, by the way, left some of my other shows reviews as well. Thank you so much, Hasselhoff. I hope you are the Hasselhoff from the US. Hasselhoff writes, this podcast deserves to be shouted off the throat of the world for all to hear, like a big dragon shout. The host make the long and rather confusing Elder Scrolls lore easy to understand. As a longtime fan myself, I always end up finding something new when listening to this show. So if you're traveling the plains of Oblivion, traveling one of the many paths, or just drinking some skooma, give this podcast a listen to. I would love to hear people's interpretations of the crazy stuff we talk about while on skooma.
Yeah, I can't imagine listening to the weird and wacky episodes while on skooma. That seems like a bad combo.
I think many of them were written on skooma, like the theories that we talk about. But thank you to everybody. We really appreciate the support. I couldn't do this without you guys. You are absolutely one half of making this a successful show. And I think you appreciate it so much. Thanks so much. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show.
Yes, you're entirely brilliant. Conquering madness and all that. Blah, 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 blah.
All right. Yeah, Rob saying it dips in and out of 100. It does. Some people just sign on long enough to get the old episodes, and that's totally okay. We've talked about that before. But I'd love for it to keep moving up. I'd love to stay above 100 for a little while. That would be awesome. All right, let's go. Let's talk about artifacts. Lotus, I know this is your favorite part.
These are usually my favorite bits because this is more of the in-game stuff. So,
and we know, and God knows, you've done everything in every game ever.
Not quite yet, but I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
So one of the ones that why don't we start with the Obsidian Husk,
all right.
which
sounds
Husk,
awesome.
It's really funny. So the Obsidian Husk is kind of interesting. It's specifically out of the dungeon Fungal Grotto 2, which I guess shout out to
that's
myself.
An old one.
Yeah. Shout out to some weird thing that I've been doing off to the side. If you're curious on how this plays out, I have a storyline playthrough on my YouTube. It's just the storyline to this. And this was one of the
he's
ones.
Been doing all of these dungeons in ESO specifically.
Right.
This is an ESO dungeon.
So that you can get the story without needing to get a team, or there's also a big problem of needing to make a new character to replay them. But this was one of the ones many people mentioned they had no idea what the hell was going on in this dungeon until I did the video.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So with the Obsidian Husk, it's a magical stone associated with Mephala. Its appearance it's basically a transparent black crystal with the letter Oat on it. It's the Daedric letter Oat. The origin of the artifact is shrouded in mystery. Some believe that it's a fragment of Oblivion, having followed a visiting Daedra from that plane. Other believes it's magical in nature, or it contains part of Mephala's essence. The husk has formidable powers and 2 known functions, which were discovered and passed down by the members of the Spider Cult, which is what takes place in the storyline of the Fungal Grotto dungeons from the Elder Scrolls Online in the Second Era. Additional spells may be tied to the artifact, but the husk never stays in the possession of a single individual for long. Members of Mephala's cult have been known to scheme and battle over it, which, interesting enough, infighting causes it's a bunch of other strange situations. But one of the things that it does is it can create and control all manners of shades, or they're known as shadowlings, to create complexity and aberrant intellect of untold power. Basically, they're kind of like little shadow minions. Mm-hmm. But it's used to the effect of the idea, it as a quick synopsis, is to kind of invade the surrounding area of it takes place in Morrowind, but it's in the Stonefalls region, and the idea was that this cult uncovers the artifact and kind of like tries to use it to its own means. You have to disable it. You don't actually ever acquire this in a game yet. It's something you fight against. So
right. But it is something that absolutely connected with Mephala.
Yes, it's very, very heavily a Mephala thing.
Spiders and shadows and all of that.
Yes. There's also this is a different artifact. It's called the Threads of the Web Spinner, which are 27 pieces of extravagant enchanted clothing and jewelry associated with Mephala and Sanguine. So it's kind of like a dual thing. The story goes that Mephala sought to reward devoted followers of the Morag Tong and turned to Sanguine to create them. So it was kind of like, I need somebody who can make super elaborate crap so that I can hand it out as gifts.
Nice.
And sure enough, Sanguine delivers. But each thread enhances a single skill, such as weapon skills, speechcraft, magic, blah, 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 going on for 27 pieces, which is a whole lot of gear.
Yeah. And this is specifically from Morrowind.
Yes, this is a Morrowind thing. And staying with the Morrowind vibe, there's also Mephala's Teacher, which is a Daedric club that is believed to be associated with the Daedric Prince Mephala, obviously. Legends state that she used the club to punish her obstinate followers and remind them that discipline is required for executing all great schemes. So do what I say and be good at it, because I'm going to club you if you're not, pretty much.
Don't make me go get the club.
Yeah. The implement itself has 2 enchantments, which freeze and tire out the victim, respectively. This is another Morrowind specific. I don't believe it's been in any other ones other than Morrowind.
Maybe Blades. Is it?
Is it also in Blades?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you might be right. I think it's also in Blades.
Mm-hmm. Just a little side game, but still counts.
Yeah, but it kind of almost looks like a pickaxe. Yeah, you're right. It's from Blades.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah, it does. It does kind of look like pickaxe. I put it up on the screen for anybody.
Yep, kind of looks like a pickaxe. Then what do we've got? We've got the other 2.
Let's talk about the Ring of Khajiit.
Yeah, because the Ebony Blade is my favorite of her artifacts. So
we'll do that one last.
Yeah, we'll do that one last. The Ring of Khajiit, sometimes known as the Ring of Khajiit, is an ancient Daedric artifact, many centuries old, dating back to at least the Second Era. So you're talking about the time of ESO again. It is associated with the Daedric princes Meridia and Mephala, which is an interesting combo.
Another combo, yeah.
Yeah, who have both been known to offer the ring in return for services. It is said that this ring makes the wearer invisible, silent, and quick, which that's a pretty lethal combo.
Yeah.
Especially for the sneak thief type. The ring was originally owned by Mephala until it was stolen off her on by Regin, which have we talked?
Regin is cool. Like there's some really cool. I don't think we've discussed Regin specifically. But
we'll have to deal with Regin at another part because there's a lot to Regin. So it's more than just a
historical Khajiit who was known for sneaky
great
stuff.
Thief.
Yes, right.
Basically just like a super burglar and kind of becomes a god of thievery.
Like a folk hero / god. It's part of also why I think so many of the Khajiit tie themselves to being sneaky, is because he's kind of a folk hero of theirs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? One of the just little notes was using the ring. Regin became the most successful burglar in Elswere's history, and this is just one of the stories that I always thought was kind of funny. It is even said that Regin stole a tattoo from the neck of Empress Kentira as she slept. So that's great. How do you know the difference between folklore and magic powers in the Elder Scrolls? Sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but it totally fits into Khajiit, the culture of just like emphasizing everything to the extreme. Right. Like this, he was so sneaky. He could even do this thing, which sounds ridiculous, but it really happened.
Exactly.
Sure, it did. Yeah. Okay.
But then the interesting part about the Ring of Khajiit, which it doesn't stay with a user, as many of these artifacts tend not to do. Eventually, after making use of his power freely and becoming, a well-known thief, the ring abandoned him and left him exposed to all of his enemies. Mm-hmm. Probably not so great. It's kind of like when you, in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, go on a crime rampage when you're wearing the gray cowl of Nocturnal, and then you take it off type of deal, and your bounty goes away, but except everyone still knows who you are.
Right. Or like Roz during the quest line in whatever that expansion was.
In Northern Elsewhere.
In Northern Elsewhere, yeah.
Yes.
Where when he goes back to his hometown and all the girls are like, Roz, I thought you were going to take me with you. You broke
and he gets found out my heart. Literally all 3 of them.
All the women come back and they're like, wait, Roz, what about me? And then another one shows up and she's like, what about me? I thought I was your girlfriend. And then
exactly.
Yes, absolutely awesome. All right. So on to the Ebony Blade.
Yeah, and the final one we're going to talk about is the Ebony Blade, also known as the Vampire or the Leech. It's another Daedric artifact from Mephala. It resembles an ebony katana, and personally, I think looks hyper badass, and is considered to be an artifact of great evil, having the ability to absorb the life essence of those that it strikes. Part of the damage inflicted flows into the wielder as raw power, draining the victim of their health and sometimes their stamina. Mm-hmm. That's rough. I mean, that's definitely in-game stuff, because if you strike someone with a katana, they're probably going to be losing stamina and life.
But you don't necessarily gain it. That's the whole thing, is that it pulls it from them
leeching into you.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, because the side effect of that is it also powers up the blade, which is really cool. And in Skyrim, when you get it, it's kind of how you buff it up. Unfortunately, I find that this weapon tends to look and sound cooler than it is in-game practice. It actually seems to always peter out before it becomes too useful, which is a little awkward. But it's also, they don't actually have note of this. It doesn't seem like in the UESP specifically, but at least on the main page. But it's also, I believe it's Niraneth, which is a villain in the Crypt of Hearts during the Second Era. Again, another dungeon in ESO. You can go to the Crypt of Hearts. You'll actually encounter it in Crypt of Hearts Part 2. And Niraneth basically is corrupted by this and wields the Ebony Blade as well. And one of the mechanics, which is why I bring this up related to this, is when you're in that fight, and it's in my YouTube video on this as well, it lifts one of the people in the battle and he holds you there, and it actually drains that person's life essence out, and you have to jar him away from the person so that the blade doesn't drain and kill that person. So
that's cool. Yeah.
It's got that effect throughout more than just one game.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, obviously this was out in Skyrim before it was in Elder Scrolls Online. So they took that as kind of, it can do these things, so let's use it in this dungeon in a really creative way, which is pretty cool. I like here that it says Khajiit myths do not mention the blade by name, but instead refer to it as, quote, the killing sword of the spider and the black edge of sorrow. Awesome.
Yeah.
The black edge of sorrow. So good.
Sounds like an emo band name.
Well, hey, Boston, we're the Black Edge of Sorrow. All the songs we play tonight are in drop D. Here we go.
Of our new album, Crying in Blood.
Yeah, only guitar players are going to know. Crying in Blood. I spell crying with CR in blood. Wait, what doesn't even make sense, but it sounds awesome. Oh man.
Yeah.
We should totally form a Elder Scrolls.
It's fine. You can download our new emo special album coming up on Spotify.
Right. Our first hit is going to be Ode to the Night Mother.
Yeah, beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, that's all the artifacts. I'm just going to go into this. I'm just going to start. You've got me so tempted to just start brainstorming all this other stuff.
I was going to say, we're going to bulldoze past our potential musical project on the horizon.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to work on a music project, let me know. I can do some guitar stuff. I can program some drums. I can play a little bit of drums. I'll help you out. All right. So we didn't mention the Spiral Skyne, right? The Spiral Skyne is Mephala's realm of oblivion. And in some lore, it's talked about how like mortals don't know about her realm of oblivion, but in other stuff, like in Skyrim, we totally know it's the Spiral Skyne. It's not a secret.
No, it totally is, which makes sense because you have like a skein of yarn type of thing where it's like, all these threads just wound together. So it's kind of fitting that that's, the name of her realm, so to speak.
Yeah. And it says here, some portions of the realm resemble a dark, sprawling cavern with a high ceiling dotted with luminescent mushrooms. Spiders, horvers, and all manner of crawling creatures inhabit the plain, and tall buildings with arches and spires dot the landscape. Crystals of deep red hues jut from the cliffs. Ceilings and walls in geometric clusters. I was almost going to say geothermal, but that doesn't make sense. Geometric clusters comprise of prism-like shapes. And this is where you get a lot of like the spider kith and the spider daedra and all that stuff. I really like the way the Spiral Skyne looks. There's a few times in ESO where we get to travel there.
Yes. That was something I wanted to bring up. I really wish we could get more of it because the little bits we've seen in the Elder Scrolls Online are really cool. So
Yes.
I wish that we got more of it so that we could see more like the Deadlands or Cold Harbor or,
It's like how I do all the Spiral Skyline looks like the lighting in my room right now.
Actually, it really does.
Yeah, the blue lights and the red. I didn't realize this until actually thinking about it right now. But I have colored lights in my room and I can change them with the app. But almost all the time, you'll notice if you watch the live streams that I've got like blue on one side of the room or red on the other. Yeah. That's basically, it's all just dark blue and red light everywhere. Yeah. And the sky always looks kind of like a really cool night sky with, I don't know. It's cool. It's a
wine so deep you didn't even realize you were part Mephala.
I guess I am.
See?
Oh no, that's what I get for
inevitable at this
goes
point.
Back to that band is inevitable. We're just going to call the band Mephala. Oh my god. And then the album can be called The Black Edge of Shadow. Yes.
Perfect.
We've got it. This is going to be a hit. This is going to be amazing.
It's going to be something.
Yeah. Somebody in chat said, Ben of Tamara says, you need to sing in a Khajiit voice. Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that's it for this episode. Now I got to do the extra stuff. Okay. There's some extra stuff here. I guess the main thing, the one thing that I found super interesting is that Mephala may be based on the Sisters of Fate of Greek mythology, since both see the lives and affairs of mortals as a tapestry or web and cut down their lives. We've talked about some of these Daedric princes being pulled from other mythologies or stories. The Sisters of Fate, it's kind of an interesting connection there. Also, Mephala, we got to talk about the voice actor.
Yep.
Mephala is voice acted by Colleen Delaney. And Colleen Delaney has all of 7 entries in her IMDb.
6 of which are just different spellings of Mephala.
No, check this out. So the oldest one is 1998's Homicide, Life on the Streets.
Ooh.
Where she played a character on an actual TV series. The rest of these, except for one's another TV series. The rest of them are video games. So 2008's One Fine Day, where she played Sandy Clementine, which I don't even remember that show. But then everything else is video games. The Wheel of Time, Hammer and Sickle, which are like older games. And then Skyrim, where she played Lydia. What? She's the voice of Lydia, Rhea, and Mephala.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then she shows up in Fallout 4 as the voice of all of the Assaultrons, and specifically Pam, who's a really cool character in Fallout 4. And then Fallout 76 is the voice of the Assaultrons again. And then Ellen Santiago and Polly, who was part of the Wastelanders DLC.
Yeah, part of the Wastelanders. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so not a huge filmography, but some really cool roles. Plus, every time you hear Lydia talk, you know that that's the same voice as Mephala. So there you go.
Interesting.
Yep.
She integrated your home all along.
Yep. And Rob, she's your wife, it seems. She's Rob's wife. I'm assuming you mean Lydia, that you married Lydia in the game. Not that you're actually married to Mephala or the voice actress.
Or the Assaultron.
Yeah, I don't know if an Assaultron's a good spouse. I mean, they're kind of hot for robots, but...
I was going to say, I'm not one to judge.
There's plenty of fan art out there. Anyway.
Moving right along.
Moving along.
The show.
So that's going to be this episode. Lotus, I know you guys did a episode of Tales of Tamriel about High Isle.
Yes, just kind of like a quick recap one. It's been very busy on the weekends, what with it being summer and doing a million things. So the episode actually just came out today, which is like Thursday, the 9th of June. So it definitely got posted a little late because we had to record it yesterday, which was a little weird. And I believe we are not going to record on our normal time this week because the Bethesda Xbox Showcase is this Sunday.
Yes. I'm going to be live streaming this.
Yeah. So rather than record literally like an hour before the show, which I'm not expecting necessarily a tie-in, but all Bethesda stuff kind of sort of can lead into each other. So we might end up either doing it after or like a day later or something like that. So there will definitely be an episode upcoming, but it might end up being like a day or two late again, because if they launch, if they announce something and then it's like, okay, cool, we had an episode, and then directly after it, it's like, oh, rip, they talked about all these exciting things that we didn't get to talk about. So I think we might, just for the sake of logistics, delay it a little bit so that we can talk about what's in the Bethesda/Xbox showcase.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Much excite.
Yeah, I'm going to be live streaming that. Me and Dave Chaffins, who is my co-host on the Starfield Lorecast, which was picking up steam until they were like, yeah, we're delaying it again. And then we were like, crap. We were getting ready to do like weekly shows because we thought we'd have more to talk about.
Unless it's the ultimate misdirection where at the Bethesda showcase, they then change the date back to 11/11/22 because it's super memorable.
Oh, I so doubt that, especially with all the latest stuff about...
that would result in terrible crunch. I wouldn't do that.
About crunch and all that. So, I totally doubt that. I do have a theory. Do you have any theories for what we're going to see on the show real quick? In all honesty, I think maybe something with Quake, or I could just be obsessed with wanting something with Quake. I'm not sure which is. I think there's totally a chance there. I think that the Doom team has probably moved on to Quake, or they've taken cues from Doom
and I love Quake,
pulling that
over.
I
really want Quake.
Yeah, because if they can reinvent Quake the same way they reinvented Doom, absolutely, it could totally work. I think they need to go back to the core of the game and not some of the like sequels. But
I without getting too much of a tangent here, I like the weird medieval style Quake.
Yes,
thing.
Like the weird dungeony stuff from Quake 1.
Yes, more than I like the space version of Quake, because they kind of alternate from game to game to game to game.
Right, I agree. And the space stuff just feels derogative of like everything else that's space. And if you saw the game thing today, it's like half the games were space horror. And it was like, well, awesome. Now we're getting just more space horror games, right? Which is fine. They can be cool. It's just we don't need another one of those. Here's my theory. My theory is I've got $20 that we're going to see something about whatever the Fallout project is that Microsoft is doing next. So is this New Vegas 2? Potentially. So now that they've got Microsoft owns Bethesda and Oblivion. And I know Obsidian. I'm sorry. Obsidian. I know Obsidian is busy working on some other projects, but my theory is that they're looking at Bethesda. They're looking at the mediocre success still of Fallout 76, which I know that they've committed to going at least 5 years with that.
Yeah.
But they've also looked at the timeline. They still haven't released Starfield. They're not going to release Elder Scrolls 6 probably for another 4 years. And then begin working on Fallout. We're still a decade away from another Fallout game. Plus, now they've got all these studios together. It totally would make sense for us to see a like New Vegas 2 logo with, okay, this is now in the planning stages. We're going to pull some of the writers from Obsidian. We might pull some other studio who's somebody else under the Microsoft umbrella to actually start building the game. We're going to do some cross studio stuff in order to make this thing happen. That's my theory.
Interesting.
I could be totally wrong. You know me. No, I'm just going to throw stuff out there because
sure.
I might be right. We'll see.
I don't know. I always kind of fall into this weird camp when it relates to Fallout games and Obsidian games specifically. I know a lot of people, Obsidian is like their darling like company, and it makes the games. The way Obsidian designs games is not the way I enjoy playing games. Yeah. So they're definitely like New Vegas is.
Well, here's the thing. I think
not super my thing compared to the others.
What they should do though is take the writers, because some of the core writing team is still part of Obsidian. Some of the same guys who worked on like the original Fallouts are still part of Obsidian.
Right.
They bring those writers on.
Yeah, that was Interplay when they got folded in. Exactly.
Right. And they say, okay, you start this out. You write us the storyline, write us some of the dialogue for the main quests and that kind of stuff. And then we're going to take this and we're going to hand this off to another team to actually implement it. So now you have the writing from the original writers, which everybody thinks is the best part of New Vegas. And then you have the implementation overseen by some of the lead project people at Bethesda with some other studios brought on to actually do the creation of the assets and the building of the dungeons and like that kind of stuff, right? There you go. And then now you got a New Vegas too. And to answer Kung Fu's question, what do I look for in a New Vegas 2? I think it's going to be a continuation of New Vegas. I think we get some sort of lore confirmation about the way that all of that stuff went down, and they continue it. Absolutely. I think that would make a lot of sense. But anyway, that's not Elder Scrolls stuff.
Everyone's hearts that I crushed in chat by saying that Obsidian is not. Yeah, they are.
I want to like their other games. I just never can stick with them.
My thing is, I don't know. Maybe they're just always too rushed. Between they had crunch on New Vegas, they had crunch on Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Yep. Yeah,
Dungeon
that wasn't
Siege
really
3 was unplayable.
Right.
They
even what was the space one that came out recently?
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds. Like, I've tried to get into playing Outer Worlds like 3 times, and I just can't keep playing it. And I think it's because it just doesn't feel as deep as the Fallout games.
Yeah,
the world is cool. Like, the characters are fun. The shooting's fine.
Yeah, it's just they're I don't know. I'm very glad that a lot of people like Obsidian.
I love the world building and the writing, and I think that's always been their best quality. The actual completion of games has always been difficult for them.
One thing they do that I will absolutely give them credit for, specifically with New Vegas, their ability to go dark on the story with Caesar's Legion.
Oh yeah.
Is something that I feel like we always make reference to things being kind of dark. They take it to some extra dark places, which is fascinating. So they've definitely got that in terms of writing. But yeah, most of their projects just have not aligned with things that I necessarily have liked.
Yeah, I totally get it. But I think we might see a logo. I think we might get confirmation that yes, another Fallout game is in the works, and this is what it's going to be. And wait another 3 years, and maybe it'll come out. But at least we got something going. So, and they could use the current updated engine and all that stuff and make it work. But anyway, that's my theory. You guys know about my stuff. I've got a bunch of other shows. Come join me on Sunday during the live stream on the Robots Radio channels on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, whichever one you prefer. I will be streaming. The nice benefit of doing that is that you'll get to see me and Dave, and maybe we'll have some other guests, maybe Lotus if you want to join us,
sure,
reacting to it. But then you'll also have a chat that's not just shooting up the screen, so you can actually talk with some other people.
1,000 miles an hour.
Right. So you can actually be involved with chat with us. And I'd love to see your guys' experiences and thoughts and things as we go through that too. So we'll be doing that on Sunday. And my other shows all can be found at robotsradio.net with all the other shows on the network. So go check that stuff out. That's what we got for this week. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you again soon. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on Twitter at robots_radio or Lotus of Doom at Lotus of Doom. Also, you can join us on the Robots Radio Discord channel. You can easily just search Robots Radio Discord on Google or check the description underneath the podcast. Also, this podcast is recorded live every week on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Robots Radio channels on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. So just search Robots Radio on any of those platforms. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you while we record the show, or before or after. Either way, just come hang out with us. And if you're looking for more information about my shows and the shows on the Robots Radio Network, go to robotsradio.net for all the information about all the shows on the network, including the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where I help both new and existing podcasters to grow their shows, build their audiences, and create the best podcasts they possibly can. All of that at robotsradio.net. We'll see you next time.